Okay, so we left off on example 4, which was a good one because this one time we want to find an angle. Okay, so determine the measure of angle B to the nearest degree. So we're going to do a similar thing with the highlighter. So here's what we want to find, angle B. So in order to use the sine law, it would mean I have to know side, little b, left side opposite. And I do. Everybody agree with that? And then I have to see if I have a side angle pair. I have a side, and I know it's opposite angle. Everybody good? So it's set up to use the sine law. But this time I'm finding an angle, so I want to start off with the angle part on top, but it has sine attached to it. So it's the sine of angle B instead of A, it doesn't matter what letter we put in there, over the opposite angle to it, which is, or side to it, sorry, which is 11.1, is equal to, so again, angle has to be on top, the sine of 31 degrees over the side opposite it, which is 5.8. So that's what your initial equation would look like. Okay? So when you have an angle on top, you have to sine with it. Okay? You can't have an angle by itself to start off the sine. Okay, so we're slowly trying to get angle B by itself. Okay, that's what we want to get by itself. So the first thing we're going to do to both sides is multiply by 11.1. But we're not actually going to, we're going to leave it for our calculator to do in a couple of steps. So now we've got sine of angle B by itself. And sine of angle B is going to be 11.1 times the sine of 31 degrees divided by 5.8. But that's not angle B, that's the sine of angle B. So if you remember back to when we found angles in SOHCAHTOA, how did we find an angle if we knew the sine? Sine inverse. Okay? So angle B is going to be the sine inverse of this whole big thing. So that's how you would write it. Use sine inverse and then a bracket. 11.1 times the sine of 31 degrees divided by 5.8, closing bracket. And now being able to put that in our calculator is the next thing. So for some people, you're going to do shift or second and sine, and it opens up a bracket for you. And then you can type in 11.1 times sine 31 divided by 5.8, closing bracket. Some people have to do this whole calculation first and then do second or shift and sine. So you have to figure out which way your calculator is. Okay? So some people you do sine inverse and open up a bracket and type this in. And for some people you have to do what's inside the bracket first and then hit second sine. It depends on your calculator. So I've got second sine 11.1 times the sine of 31 divided by 5.8, closing bracket, equals, I got 80.29, so approximately 80 degrees. Okay, so how many people need help putting that in their calculator? Just go around person to person. Okay, so yours is one of the ones where you got to do this calculation first. So you're going to go 11.1 times 31 sine divided by 5.8 equals, and then second sine. Okay? Or it is. So you got to do everything in the brackets and then second sine. Okay? And then here you should have written sine inverse. See how you wrote sine inverse. So here you just start out with second sine, and then 11.1 times sine 31, close up one bracket. Okay. 11.2 times sine 31 bracket divided by 5.8 bracket again.
see the fingerprints.
Yep. Anyone else? You have the calculators? Yeah,
After friends. I know what it is. My reasons were not. Who's that? You.
And then 11.1 times sine.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at some things. Hold on, I'm gonna look at some things.
So, this is what
It's C is for
bracket, 11.1 divided by
I have a tiny sandwich.
No. Okay, next question. Determine the measure of angle P to the nearest degree. So I would start off. Patrick. We're trying to find angle P, but I don't know angle P or sine P. That's not good. That means I cannot use the sine law directly to find angle P. You see that? Because I don't have one or the other. Everybody good there? All right. What do I have? Well, I know that one. I know angle 39 degrees and the side opposite it. What else am I given? 41. So I could find angle R. Now, if I were to find angle R, would I be able to get angle P? Yes, by subtracting from 180. You see that? So this question forces me to find angle R because I don't know anything about the P's, but I do know the side little r. Okay? So this question is forcing me to find angle R based on the information given in the question. So I'm going to start off by saying the sine of angle R divided by the side opposite it, which is 41, is equal to the sine of 39 degrees. So angles on the top, but they can't be alone, they have to be with sine, divided by 28. So that's applying the sine law to find angle R. Okay? Then I have to multiply. I'm slowly trying to get angle R by itself, so the first step is going to be to multiply both sides by 41. Yes? So now I've got that the sine of angle R is 41 times the sine of 39 divided by 28. But that's the sine of R. I want angle R. So angle R is going to be the sine inverse of that whole thing. So angle R is going to be the sine inverse of this whole thing. And that's not even what they're asking me for. They're asking me for angle P, but that'll be easy to find after I find angle R. Okay, so you want to make sure you can put that in your calculator. So some calculators you have to do the inside the brackets first and then shift and sign, and other calculators you have to type the shift sign first. And if you type that in correctly, what should you get? 67, good. 67 degrees. That's angle R. So then angle P is going to be 180 minus Q minus R, or approximately 74 degrees. again, why aren't we using SOHCAHTOA for these triangles? Because there's no right angle. Okay. All right, so we've done 2 examples of finding an angle. And here's another one for you. So I'm going to give you guys time to just try this one on your own, on their way. So I saw lots of highlighters or circling and seeing that we had a side angle pair and that we want to find angle V, and we're lucky enough that we know side little v. Okay? So I would start off then with my sine V on top, because it's angle V that I want to find, over the side opposite line, equals the sine of 85 degrees. So angles on the top, over 11.4. So hands up if that was your first line. Excellent. Okay? Anyone that wasn't, do you see where you went sideways a bit? It could be this flipped upside down sometimes. Okay? All right, so then your second step is going to be to multiply both sides by 8.9 to undo the times. Okay? And then you restrain yourself from actually typing that in your calculator yet, and you save that all till the end so that you don't have to round and round all the way through. So this is where you want to see if you wrote it down properly. So V or angle V, either is fine, equals sine inverse. So the little -1 there means inverse of this whole big thing. And then we want to figure that out. So make sure you type it in the calculator the way that works on your calculator. $51 degrees I got. So the nearest degree? Yes? Awesome. All right, excellent. So we've learned how to use it to find sides before lunch, angles after, and now we're probably mixing it up. So solve triangle ABC. So whenever you see solve in a triangle, you make your chart, sides and angles. Okay? Sides and angles. Try to put your angles and sides in alphabetical order, but you wouldn't lose marks for it. It's just easier for me to mark because they're where I expect them to be. So angle A is 71 degrees and angle B is 51 degrees. And what does it mean if I know 2 of the angles? I know all 3. Perfect. So I'm just going to go 180. I don't even have to show it. Minus 71, minus 51. And I can fill this one right in. And I can put it in my diagram as well. So I actually know all 3 angles if I know 2. Okay? Now, remember our naming system. So little a is the side opposite angle A, so it's 9.8 centimeters. Little b and little c we don't know. And it's actually, when you make the chart, it's really easy to see how you can use the sine law because the angle and the side are right across from each other. So that you know you can use the sine law because you have that side angle there. Does everyone see that? You can also see it in the diagram, but it's also in your chart, which is nice. Okay? So then, and then same with the chart, if I want to find side little b, angle little b is right there. So I could go ahead and find it. So we'll find little b first. So it's going to be b over the sine of 51 degrees. So when you're finding a side, you want the side on top. So remembering back to before lunch. And then equals the side you know, which is 9.8, over the sine of 71 degrees. Okay? Sides I find are a little easier to find because you don't have to do the sine inverse. You just multiply both sides by sine 51. undo the divide by sine 51. And then you just have to make sure you put it in your calculator. And I just find I make mistakes all the time typing stuff in, so you have to double check it if it's your assignment and you want to make sure. 9.8 times sine 51 divided by sine 71. I got 8.05. Yeah? And this is only rounded to 1 decimal place, so I would only round this to 1 decimal place. I would take my lead off what it says in the question, so 8.05 would round to 8.1, because 5 rounds up. But then I would need a dot here, approximately 8.1 centimeters. Does that make sense? Almost, or yes? Yeah? Okay. All right, so now we're going to find side little c. So it's going to be little c over the sine of angle c. And I'm going to go back to the info given in the question because I know it's right. I know I didn't make a calculation error or anything. I know it's right. So I want the side on top, 9.8 over sine of 71. And then to get little side c by itself, I want to undo divide by sine 58 by multiplying by sine 58 on both sides. And then if you put it in your calculator correctly, you should get side little c. Did you guys get 8.78? So it rounds up to 8.8. So then you have to remember in your chart to put a dot above your equal sign, 8.8, and then centimeters. Everybody good? That's how you do a solve question. Make your chart. Figure out once your whole chart's filled out, then you're done the question. Okay? All right, the next one's a solve too, so start making your chart. See what you know and what you don't know. And I only know G. A little G, little G, and a little I. If I make my chart up right, I can see that's the side angle pair I have. And yes, in the diagram, that's the side angle pair I have. Everyone see that? Now this question's trapped me in, there's only one thing I can find. See if you can reason through what's the one thing you're able to find right now. Angle I, good, because I know that piece in the chart, I don't know that, and I know nothing about those. So I have to find angle I, okay, because the only other piece of information I've given is side little I. So I've been forced into finding angle I first. So that means I'm going to start off with the sine of angle I divided by 8 equals angles on top, so sine of 115 degrees over 13. Okay. Angles on top with the sine. This is called the sine law. Sides on the bottom if you're finding an angle. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 8 to undo the divide by 8. And then to undo sine, to get angle I by itself, I have to do sine inverse. And I gotta make sure I put that in my calculator properly. I got 33.89, so 34 degrees approximately. Yep. So then you're going to go to your chart, put a dot above the equal sign, and fill in 34 degrees. And by knowing that, you can now get H approximately. Does everyone agree? Because you can just do 180 minus. Once you've got two angles, you know all three. 31. Okay, so the only thing left in our chart that we don't know is little h. So we have to find little h next using the sine law. So since it's a side, I want to start with the side on top over the sine of the angle opposite, which we now know is 31. And I'm going to stay with the yellow information because that's the stuff they gave me, and I know there's no calculation error in it. So I want the side 13 on top and the sine of the angle on the bottom. Okay. So when I'm finding a side, I want the sides on top. When I'm finding an angle, I want the angles on top. Okay. And the angles have to go with the sine. All right, so I need now to multiply both sides by sine of 31 to get h by itself. And then I just have to enter it into my calculator correctly. I got 7.38 so it's approximately 7.4 centimeters, and then I have to put that in my chart. And now that everything's filled out, I'm done. Okay. Any questions about that one? Great. So now we're kind of on a problem. This is a problem kind of similar to what we did this morning. Determine the height of the castle, but this time we're given the distance between the two. So the side that we're given is not a side of a right angle triangle. Does everyone agree with that? The side we're given is not a side of a right angle triangle. So let's draw in the triangle that we're given and see what we know about it other than the 30 degrees and the 45. Is there anything else you can think of that we know about it?
Oh, the 50 at that side is equal 180.
Right, that's a straight angle, right? A straight line. So 50 and 130 adds up to 180. So that angle in there is 130. Perfect. And then if you know two angles in a triangle, you automatically know all three. So the little one up at the top is going to be 20 degrees. Everybody good? Now I've got to make up a plan. I know everything I can know in that little triangle. How is this triangle going to help me getting that height? And I guess I'm assuming this is 90 degrees and I didn't tell you that. Which side would be better for me to get? The outer side or the inner side, and why? The inner side, because then I'm going to be working with this triangle, and I'll know this side, that angle, and I'll be able to find that side using SOHCAHTOA. Everybody good? So this is the side I want, so I'm going to call it X, and I'm going to use the sine law, so I've got the 30 and the X, and I've got the 20 and the 45. So I know that's a weird looking triangle, but they are opposite each other. So I'm going to start off with the side I want on the top. So side X over the sine of 30 degrees. Side's on top, so it's 45 over the sine of 20 degrees. And that's going to give me X. So then I'll just be working with this right angle triangle. And I'll be able to write a side there in a minute. Okay? So then multiply both sides by sine 30. You guys get 65.78, so 65.8 approximately. So that means this side here is 65.8 meters. And this is a right angle triangle. So in fact, I can use sine law for a right angle triangle if I want to, or I can use SOHCAHTOA. I'll show you that they both work. If I was going back to SOHCAHTOA, I would name according to this angle, opposite, and hypotenuse means that I could use the sine ratio. So I would do sine 50 equals opposite, which is h, over hypotenuse, which is 65.8. So then I want to get h by itself, so I would multiply both sides by 65.8. And I get that the height is 50.4 meters. Okay, I just want to show you that you can use the sine law for a right triangle. So here's my side and my opposite angle that I know, okay? And I know this angle, but I want to find that side. So if I use the sine law, I would go h over the sine of 50 equals 65.8 over the sine of 90. Everybody try the sine of 90 in your calculator right now. And tell me what number it gives you. 1. So because that's 1, you can still use the sine law, it doesn't change your calculation. So you can multiply both sides by sine 50. And you can see you're doing the exact same calculation. You're multiplying 65.8 by the sine of 50 and dividing by 1, or divided by sine 90. And you're still going to get 50.4 meters. So Sine law works for every triangle, whether it's a right angle triangle or not, but SOHCAHTOA only works for right triangles. Okay? Sine law works for every triangle. SOHCAHTOA only works for right triangles. Okay? So we still have to answer the question. Therefore, the castle is 50.4 meters tall. So that was a bit of a thinker. Our last one. If it is 1.25 kilometers from the beginning of the ski lift to the base of the mountain, so that's here, how long is the ski lift? So that would be, X would be there. So as it stands right now, do we have a side angle pair? No, but I can use that straight angle thing again, right? If this is 50, then we know that's 130. Because it has to add up to 180. And then if I subtract from 180, I get 30 up at the top. Everybody good there? So now I do have this side, and its opposite angle is 30. Okay? And I want to find this side, and its opposite angle is 130. Okay? So if I'm finding a side, the side's on the top. So it's x divided by the sine of 130 is equal to side on top, 1.25, divided by the sine of 30. And then I want to get x by itself, so I have to multiply both sides by the sine of 130 degrees. So 1.92 if you rounded 2 decimal places, because I got 1.915. And since this has 2 decimal places, I'll keep this one to 2 decimal places. So therefore, the ski lift is about 1.92 kilometers long. Okay, that was the sine law. Sides and angles.